Andy Murray, he was been joking about myself and him playing a match, and I'm like, Andy, seriously, like, are you kidding me? Because for me, tennis and men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate sports. So I'm like, if I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because no, it's true. It's true. It's a completely. It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster, and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game, and I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be embarrassed. I would not do the tour. I wouldn't do Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it. Yeah. I'm not gonna let you kill me.
All right, what are you guys doing?
What's that?
What are you guys doing?
Out here exercising our First Amendment. How are you?
I love it. I love it. Good job. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Right on. Great.
I'm going to go see the infamous female impersonator.
Yes.
And I'll be back here to join you guys. I've got a bullhorn.
Yes, thank you very much.
They've got the LGBTQ community coming to cheer for him.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
And to make it look like, to gaslight us into thinking that everybody supports him.
No, most people don't.
No, they don't.
Look at all these people. All right, good job, everyone. I'll be right back.
Breaking news, first at 11, a man assaulted over a Clovis controversy about a transgender athlete, and it's caught on camera.
I want everybody out there to exercise their right in a peaceful manner. It shouldn't be going across and, again, you know, trying to somebody.
It's an exclusive story that you will only see tonight on Eyewitness News. Josh Fulfer tells me that he was fearful for his life as he clashed with an LGBTQ supporter. He is known for his opinions and not afraid to tell people what they are. But this is a first. Caught on camera, he was assaulted with his wife and 4-year-old son in the vehicle. Josh Fulfer tells me that he was outside Buchanan High School today protesting a 16-year-old transgender athlete competing in the state track and field championship.
And so we had signs that said protect girls sports, no boys and girls sports. We were probably out there for about 2 hours or so.
While the event was taking place, Josh and about 12 others were demonstrating at Nees and Minnewawa Avenues. Around 4 o'clock, they packed up and were heading home.
I pulled up to that same corner to come home, and there was someone with a flag, and so I look over. It was someone with a transgender flag. They were wearing a black face mask, black glasses, black hoodie. It was 94 degrees out today, and they said something to me, and I said, why are you so embarrassed to show your face? You know, take off the mask. And next thing I know, they're coming across to the center divide where we are with the flagpole, and starts hitting me.
A portion of the assault was caught on camera. It shows the person identified by Clovis police as 19-year-old Ethan Kroll cussing at Josh and hitting his vehicle with the end of a flagpole.
I had my wife and my 4-year-old son in the back seat. My wife was actually the one that yelled, "Spray them." And my son was actually crying in the back seat. He was upset and obviously a little terrified of what he's seen. About after 5-6 hits, I was able to get my pepper spray and pepper spray them, and that got them at least down a little bit. And then they started hitting the outside of the vehicle. I ran the red light, got to a safe area, pulled over. When I turned around, I seen Clovis PD already going towards the scene and the situation and taking that person into custody.
Josh was able to get this video of the arrest moments before Kroll was put into a police car and taken to the Fresno County Jail.
All right, welcome back. Growing outrage in California as a biological male dominates in first place, winning 3 state girls track and field championships.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
Our next guest has been calling out the unfairness since she was forced to compete against a trans swimmer in college and has made the fight for women's sports her mission.
Host of the Gains for Girls podcast and Outkick.com, Riley Gaines. She's America's #1 feminist as far as I'm concerned. The only one really standing up for women in sports on that level. And we just thank you for being here. So what's your take on this? I mean, by the way, I hear the mother of the trans athlete, this man who's robbed these women of their trophies and their awards, is now speaking out as well. It's sort of like, where are all the parents for all the girls?
Yeah, it's tragic. This boy's mom has actually sent out cease and desist to those who are willing to advocate against his participation in the women's category.
What?
This boy's taking a girl's rightful spot as state champion, qualifying spots, podium spots in California, Washington, Oregon, Minnesota, and Maine. That is 5 states that have blatantly and defiantly ignored federal law, that federal law being Title IX, and of course, Donald Trump's most recent executive order.
So how old were you when you first started to have to engage in this topic?
So this was in 2022, when I had to compete against the male that you saw on screen just a minute ago. And so, 3 years past that.
All right, here we go. That's a boy! That's a boy! That's a man, man!
Science behind this hasn't been studied enough or talked about enough for us to make a real full opinion. I do agree girls' sports are for girls.
You said this hasn't been studied enough to know that, look, we've got millions of years of study. Men and women are different, and that's why it's unfair to put boys in girls' sports. We don't need to have any more biological studies. It is fundamentally unfair.
But do you see, genuinely curious, any accommodations that are reasonable? You have a 16-year-old who wants to participate in sports. In your mind, is there any way that can happen that is fair?
Of course. Have the people participate with their own biological sex. Boys in boys sports, girls in girls sports. It's worked for a very long time in this country.
But it's not that simple anymore, Scott. That's where we are. So what do you do when it's not
80% of the country?
But it's not that anymore. So what do you do with the 20%? Do we ignore them?
Yeah,
do
pretty
we
much. I mean, it's an 80-20 issue.
Scott, everybody's ignoring it.
And you just said it was a minuscule number.
It's
if it's minuscule, why do we have to upend?
We don't have to. The reason why I said it was a minuscule number, Scott, was because I don't think it's fair that you're scaring people at home thinking that boys are trying to compete in girls sport by the droves and that this is going to take over and you were scaring people at home. It's just not happening, Scott.
But this is like the most competitive track meet in the country.
Competing against 7 men. It's the mixed relay. This is the last lap. The inaugural champions to be crowned. Svite Ursutic. And it's Michael Cherry storming round that bend trying to close the gap. Javon Francis is in 3rd place for the Jamaicans. And look at the speed with which Cherry takes the Polish woman. She's grimacing and she's being reeled in here. Martin Rooney trying to close in on the Bahrainian. Svite Ursutic is going to get caught here, but can she hang on for a medal? The gold is going to go to Michael Cherry and the United States. The inaugural champions. It will also mean Alison Felix moves to 12 world titles.
The trans kids that want to play the sports, Lord have mercy, that is the biggest issue that we had. Since when? Since when? Find the little trans child that is ruining your life. Like, I mean, I'm just like...
To hear her do that sort of obsession, this thing is like, why are you obsessing on the trans thing? It's 0.1% of whatever. Listen to me, idiots. We're not obsessing over any of your horrible ideas. We recognize them as shit ideas, and then we say we don't want to go along with them. Yeah. That's not us obsessing.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you just started walking around with a toilet paper roll on your head, and I kept saying, hey, I don't know what you're doing with the toilet paper on your head, but take it off before we go into the restaurant. That's not me obsessing on it. That's you with a shitty idea that doesn't make sense, that I'm not down with.
Yeah.
And then I'm bringing it up. You can then remove it, and then I won't obsess on it anymore because it'll be gone. So our thing is, we don't want men competing against women. End of subject. You can say it's obsession. You can call it whatever it was. You can explain that it barely happens or it's almost nothing. Fine. You can say whatever you want. The statement remains. I don't care if it's one man competing against women or thousands of men competing against women. We're not down for it. And the reason it seems like we obsess on it is because all this does is lead to your next shitty idea that is destroying our society that we worked hard to build. So that's why we push back on little things sometimes, because they're symbolically a direction that you're going, which is not a direction anyone wants to go in our society. Not sane people, not normal people.
Everybody, you know, if you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on. Secret Service is worried about them. If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, do you want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? Are you ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature, because this is, you know, this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Pretty good, huh? I see that. Okay? Good. Now you're going to go out and win those events, right?
The problem with women's sports and these issues is women. Where are you? There's more women showing up for Queers for Palestine than are showing up for girls being subjected to this.
Yeah.
Where are the women? Where is the marching? Where is it? Protect your daughters. Fathers are now training and getting ferocious again to protect their daughters. Where are the women? Where are the pro athletes? Because what it looks like to me, and again, we make jokes. Greg's not sexist. I am closetly, but not privately, publicly. But we don't hold them accountable. They never stand up. The selfishness. I've made it in professional sports, so I don't give a damn about any other girl coming up. And that's the message you're sending, because if this was happening in men's sports, that you would have men athletes standing up going, this isn't right. Well, we did have it. When you wouldn't let black men play with white men, people stood up. They marched. We got Jackie Robinson. We got change. All this takes is women to do something about it. So when are you going to show up for your daughters?
There's no end to the backlash that you may face. There are quite a lot of women who are witnessing, men in their sports, and they're trying to save their own sports on their own. And it's hard to come out because you essentially nuke your whole life. You can face social ostracism. You can have financial blowback. You could have training disrupted. And you could have, officials or referees now not being very favorable toward you for the rest of your life. There's no end to the backlash that you may face. It's not fun being on the receiving end of this. It's not what I wanted to do. And it helps to have people who acknowledge that it takes, some sort of sacrifice to bring attention to an issue.
Gavin Newsom is clearly angling at a 2028 presidential run. In an interview with Charlie Kirk, he has come out now and said that he acknowledges it is unfair to allow men onto women's sports teams, but not unfair enough for him to actually do something about it. He's really become this legendary fence sitter, continuing to wink at both sides. But we see you, Gavin Newsom, and we're watching.
So you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
So what is it like to be, 22 at the time, to be still a very young woman, you're a grown woman, but to be a young, and you are trying to talk the most basic common sense to adults and institutions and government entities which are telling you something that is completely bonkers, and then also calling you names for saying what is clearly true?
I mean, I still have to pinch myself that this 3 years later is something that we're still talking about, that Democrats are doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on. But you ask how it feels. Truthfully, it feels like betrayal. That's how I feel, right? Institutions that were in place, people who are in place, their job it is to protect us, they're failing entirely, whether that's parents, whether that's coaches, whether that's the NCAA, whether that's governors like Gavin Newsom, whether that's the CIF, the governing body of interscholastic sports in the state of California. It feels like total and utter betrayal.
And this is, look, an 80-20, maybe a 90-10 issue, and I think a lot of Democrats out there kind of know that internally. We saw California Governor Gavin Newsom have Charlie Kirk on his podcast and admit, yes, it's unfair to have men playing in women's sports. Yet, has he introduced any legislation in California to change that?
No.
No.
He's done the exact opposite of that. Which President Trump, he put him in the hot seat this past week. He put out a Truth Social post saying, look, if federal law is not adhered to, I will take action. This could even result in permanent action, and that means pulling of the federal funds. Here we are, Gavin Newsom, again, has done nothing. So I hope it has been enough with the warnings. I hope we see some action, whether that's the Department of Education getting involved, whether that's hopefully the Department of Justice getting involved, because ultimately I think that's what it's going to take.
So somebody else is trying to get involved. His name is Keith Olbermann, and he's been like trolling you. It's like he wants to get into your spotlight or something. Here's what he said. He said this: she finished 85th in the Olympic trials. She finished tied for 5th in the only race including a transgendered athlete. If there had been none, she might have finished tied for 4th or had 5th place to herself. Riley Gaines was somehow a worse swimmer than she is a MAGA stooge. So what was your response to this old man trying to
creepy old man.
Creepy old man.
Truthfully, I expect nothing less from a former ESPN host who cannot seem to keep a job anywhere, for that matter. Couple of things here. I finished 85th at Olympic trials, the highest stage where only the top 1% of the top 1% are able to compete anyways, when I was 15 years old. So besides the point, my response to this, truthfully, was, Keith Olbermann, put your money where your mouth is. I happily challenged him to a race. He can pick the setting. He can pick the distance. I will even give him a 30-second head start.
I don't think anybody wants to see him in a pool.
No one wants to see him in a Speedo, going back to the conversation you guys had earlier.
Speedo crowd.
Thigh guy.
Alone by himself.
Keith Olbermann is the thigh guy. It's his thigh guy somewhere.
Please don't invite him to get into a pool. We don't want to see that.
He tweeted at me yesterday calling ICE terrorists, too. So
Did you see what he tweeted just today in response to Cory Booker, what CNN, MSNBC, when Elon Musk did the salute or the wave, the heartfelt gesture, really? They called it a Nazi salute. Keith Olbermann has gone to X this morning to say how Cory Booker and Elon, it was totally different because Cory Booker's thumb was out from his hand. This man is delusional and senile and lives in his mom's basement.
Well, we are so grateful to you for everything you do, but one of the things we're really grateful to you for is dealing with Keith Olbermann for the rest of us.
Someone's got to do it.
So thank you
Someone's got to do it.